You've never needed to chase anyone, not because you think you're better, but because you know your energy isn't for everyone. You've learned that when you chase, you lose yourself. You start shrinking, bending, overthinking just to be seen, and that's not who you are. You value depth over attention, connection over noise. So instead of running after people, you walk your own path, quietly, intentionally, and the ones meant for you, they find you in that silence because something about your calm, your clarity, your refusal to beg for love, it draws in exactly what chasing never could. You stopped chasing because you realized your peace matters more than attention. There was a time when you cared too much about being seen. You chased approval, connection, even love, thinking that if you just gave more, tried harder, showed up perfectly, someone would finally choose you back. But all it ever did was leave you drained. Because the more you chased, the more pieces of yourself you gave away. And one day, something in you shifted. You realized your peace was worth more than being noticed by the wrong people. You saw how much energy you spent running after things that never filled you. So you stopped, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You chose your quiet over their chaos. You chose presence over performance. And in doing so, you started attracting what aligned with your soul, not what demanded you abandon it. You're not afraid to be alone because you've found power in solitude. You used to wonder if being alone meant something was wrong with you, if maybe you were just too distant, too different, too quiet. But the more time you spent with yourself, the more you realized how rare that silence really is. Solitude stopped feeling like emptiness and started feeling like freedom. In those quiet moments, you weren't performing, you weren't shrinking to fit, you were just you, unfiltered. And that's where the power began. You learned to hear your own thoughts without outside noise. You discovered that your worth wasn't tied to who was around, but who you became when no one was watching. Being alone stopped scaring you because you saw what most people miss. Solitude doesn't mean lonely. It means grounded. It means self-led. It means you've made peace with yourself. And that's a power no one can take. You attract people by being real, not by seeking validation. You don't play games. You're not interested in pretending to be something you're not just to get someone's attention. You've been down that road before, trying to mold yourself into what others wanted, only to feel lost in the process. That's why now you lead with honesty. You show up as you are without the performance. And strangely, that's what draws people in, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're not. There's something magnetic about someone who's real in a world full of noise. You don't need constant compliments to feel worthy. You don't chase approval because you've already accepted yourself. That quiet confidence, that emotional honesty, it makes people feel safe, seen, and curious. You're not trying to be liked. You're just being true. And that's exactly why they're drawn to you. You walk away when something doesn't feel right, even if it's hard. You've learned to listen to that quiet feeling in your gut, the one that tells you when something is off, even if you can't explain why. There were times you ignored it, hoping things would change, giving people the benefit of the doubt. But it always led to the same place, feeling drained, confused, and disconnected from yourself. That's why now you walk away, not because it's easy, not because you don't care, but because you've finally started honoring what your intuition is telling you. If something feels wrong, if the energy feels forced, if you feel like you're shrinking just to keep the peace, you leave. Even if your heart still cares, even if your mind has doubts, you walk away because staying would mean betraying yourself. And that's a price you're no longer willing to pay. You listen more than you speak, and that draws people in. You've never been the loudest in the room, and you don't need to be. While others talk to be heard, you listen to understand. You notice what's not being said. You catch the shifts in tone, the silence between words, the small signs that most people overlook. And that's what pulls people toward you. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, you make others feel seen. You don't interrupt. You don't fake interest. You genuinely care. And because of that, people open up around you. They feel safe, understood. They sense that you're not there to judge or fix them. You're just there present. Your silence isn't empty. It's full of attention. And without even trying, that calm presence becomes magnetic. You don't speak to take up space, you speak when it matters. And when you do, people listen because they've already felt the depth of your silence. Your silence creates mystery, and people are drawn to what they can't easily define. You don't reveal everything about yourself, and that's not a tactic, it's just who you are. You've seen what happens when you open up too quickly, how people take pieces of you without understanding their value. So now you move differently, you say less, observe more. You let people feel your presence before they hear your story. And in that quiet, something strange happens. People lean in, they try to figure you out. They sense there's more beneath the surface, but you don't hand it over easily. You're not trying to be mysterious, but your silence creates space for curiosity. You're not easy to label, not easy to predict, and that's what keeps people intrigued. In a world full of noise, your calm creates contrast. While others overshare and overexpose, you simply exist with intention. And that restraint, that quiet depth, makes people wonder what you're not saying. You don't need constant connection to feel whole. You've built your own world. You've outgrown the need for constant noise. You used to think connection had to be constant to be meaningful. Texts, calls, check-ins every day. But now you understand something deeper. Real connection doesn't drain you, and wholeness doesn't come from others. It comes from within. You've built a world where your peace isn't dependent on who shows up or who doesn't. A world filled with your own thoughts, your own passions, your own clarity. You're not avoiding people, you're just not relying on them to feel complete. You've created a space where you can recharge, think, grow, and exist without needing outside affirmation. That kind of independence confuses people. They don't always get how someone so quiet can feel so full, but that's because they haven't seen the world you've built. The one where solitude isn't loneliness, but sanctuary. And in that world, you've found yourself. And the right people are magnetized by your presence, not your effort. You've spent enough time trying to prove your worth, over giving, over explaining, trying to be enough for people who never really saw you, but not anymore. Now you let your presence speak for itself. You no longer bend or chase or force things to work because you've learned that the right people don't need convincing. They feel your energy before you say a word. They're drawn to your depth, your calm, your quiet strength. Not to how hard you try, but to how true you are. You've stopped showing up to be chosen. Now you show up as yourself and let the rest unfold. And in that stillness, you've become magnetic, not because you're chasing connection, but because you've become the kind of person who no longer needs to. If this message felt like it was meant for you, it's because you've already started living it. You're done chasing what drains you. And now you're becoming the kind of person who draws in what's real. So if you're walking that quiet path, stay close. This space was made for minds like yours. Subscribe and let's keep building strength in silence together.